let's talk about some pocket options. So first I'm going to do, with this pink, a shallow pocket. And this pink fabric is cut 9 inches wide by 10 inches long. And what we're going to do for just our shallow pocket is fold this in half along the 10-inch side so that is now 5 inches by 9 inches. And I'm going to sew all the way with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to sew up here, stop at 1/2 inch away, over here, stop at 1/2 inch away, down just a little bit. Then I'm going to leave about a 2-inch opening, 1.5 to 2-inch opening, and sew the very bottom also with a 2-inch seam allowance. Okay, so 1/2 inch seam allowance. So we're sewing a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around, not crossing over the corners, and leaving about a 2-inch opening right over here. That's all we're going to do to get started with this pocket. Now let's see if we want a zipper pocket. You will need an 8-inch zipper. This zipper is longer than 8 inches, and we will talk about how to fix that. I'll show you that when we get to that step. Then 2 pieces of fabric. This piece is 9 inches by 3 inches. Okay, and this piece is 9 inches by 12 inches. What I'm going to do before I do some sewing on these is I'm just going to fold up the 9-inch ends on both of these pieces of fabric. I'm going to fold along the 9-inch side, and I'm going to fold it up about a 1/2 inch. It does not have to be perfection, because you want to try to get a straight line, you know, not changing the amount you're folding. But if it's not exactly a 1/2 inch, that is not a big deal. You just want to try to make sure that it's even from one end to the other. And I'm going to do that on this piece as well. Oops. Want to fold it towards you want to fold it towards the inside, not the outside. Okay, so fold this edge over. Again, we don't need perfection. Basically, we need it to remember where it's going to be folded later, and this is just, it's going to make our lives much easier when we turn this. Trust me, okay? Now that we've done that, what we're going to do with both of these pieces is kind of unfold that. All right, and we're just going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance along each of these sides. So this is my 12-inch side that I have now folded in half, and I am going to line up the corners, and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way across. I'm unfolding that fold, that's totally fine, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And with this 3-inch by 9-inch piece, I'm doing the same thing. I'm folding so that it's now 1.5 inches by 9 inches, and I'm going to go make a 1/2 inch seam allowance that's back stitched on both ends, and the same thing on this side. Unfold my little pressed area, and then 1/2 inch seam allowance, back stitch on both ends. Now let's look at these pocket pieces. So first we're going to look at this shallow pocket. What I'm going to do now that I've sewn everything is just clip my corners. I'm even going to clip these corners that aren't actually sewn, that aren't actually a full corner here, just to help reduce some of the bulk. Okay, you'll notice I'm leaving like between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch away from the actual corner. And then all we're going to do is go through this little hole opening that we left, there we go, and flip things. And what I usually do, just start with the far corner. When I have the full corner like this, is I fold it over and then fold it over, and then I just kind of pinch that and pull it through, and that really helps pull that corner out. Okay. And then I'll do the same thing on this little corner as well. I'm gonna kind of fold it and flip it through. Okay, and then if you have a point turner, you can use your point turner. If you don't have a point turner, one of the things you can use, like a chopstick, If your scissors don't have a sharp point when they're closed, you can go ahead and carefully use that to pull your points. Okay, so you can see my scissors do not have a sharp point when they're closed, so it's okay that I kind of use them to push out my points. Obviously, if your scissors do have a sharp point when they're closed, like those little snips that I was showing you earlier, you do not want to use that because you might actually tear your fabric, which would be sad. So you turn that, and then you're going to give this whole thing a nice little press. Make sure that you've pulled your seam out and you're not ironing this with the actual seam shoved inside, so your piece is smaller than it's supposed to be. Oh, yep, there's my opening. Don't worry, you do not need to close the opening because when we attach the pocket, it will get closed that way. Make sure you press the folded area as well. And here is one pocket ready to go. We're going to move that to the side. Now we're going to talk about these pockets. You can again clip these corners. It's just going to aid with some bulk. Okay, you don't need to in order to be able to turn. Okay, but it really is going to help with some bulk, and because of the way these are attached to the bag, you really don't have to worry about it weakening anything. Now we're going to flip this around, okay? And remember how I said doing that pre-ironing was going to make our lives easier, because now we need to put the fold along the top, and look, it's already there. It's a lot harder to fold that towards the inside than it is to fold it when it's flat. So because we did that already, it's so much easier, especially when we get to that top piece. I know it just popped right out again. I'm going to iron this first. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to pop that back in. Here. Sometimes if you kind of open it up and fold it when it's flat, it's easier to get that corner in. There we go. So now press that corner really well. There we go. And now I'll go over here, get it folded over while it's flat. There we go. Now that I've got those two sides, I should be able to kind of, there, see? Now that I got both of those seamed sides pressed, I can get it to lay flat, and I can really get that pressed nice and neatly. I'm going to put this to the side. We're going to need to use that again in a minute. And now we're going to do the same thing with this little piece as we just did with the bigger one. Exactly the same thing, it's just not as long. Okay, so now we have our two pieces of pocket, and they should be, and they are, the same length, okay? Now what we need to do with our zipper, so I want to cut it so that there's just about 3/8 of an inch left after the zipper pull, okay? And then what I'm going to do is go over here, and I'm just going to give this a little mark with my pencil, just shy of the seam. So I've got this end lined up just shy of the seam because it needs to actually fit inside. Now I marked this just shy of the seam as well. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I have two pieces of thread doubled up in this needle. So there's actually, since it's doubled up, 4 pieces of thread. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in about 3/8 of an inch from this line, 3/8 of an inch towards the zipper pull from this line. and I'm going to sew a little bar across. I'm going to turn this over here so that when I start to get to the knot, I'm going to slide my needle through so there's like 2 pieces of thread on either side, and then pull that. That'll just keep the knot a little more secure. I'm going to flip it back over again, and I'm going to continue to sew a couple more stitches on either side of that stitch, and put another one above it, and now another one below it. Okay, and then I'm going to do all of those again, working over top of the stitches I just made and making them a little bit longer. Okay, so I'm coming up on this side of the stitches I just made, and then I'm going down on this side of the stitches I just made, making a real nice secure little band across here. One more. So I did 3 in a row, and then I did 3 more on top of those 3. So I went across a total of 6 times with 4 layers of thread. Okay, now that I've done all that, I'm just going to go to the back and tie myself a nice little knot. Okay, just kind of bury that end in there. Give it a little clip. Okay. Now at this point, do not use your good fabric scissors. This is a job for a pair of craft scissors. You're going to cut up to the zipper. Actually, you're going to cut up to the zipper. And you're going to try to cut in between the zipper teeth. You're obviously not going to be able to cut the zipper teeth. And you're cutting it on that line that we drew. See that? There we go. Now you can pull apart these teeth right here because we need to get rid of them so we can sew. All right, we cannot sew the sewing machine over top metal teeth because it will break our machine. So now that I've done that, I'm taking some pliers and I'm going to grab the teeth, and I'm grabbing them sideways. If I grab it this way, it'll just pinch that tooth harder onto the fabric. So I'm grabbing it sideways really tightly and pulling, and I just pulled that tooth off. Okay, and I'm going to do that again with this one. Grab it, pull, off it comes. Flip this around. Here, I'll show you this tooth when I pull it out. I'm going to grab it, pull. See that? That little U-shaped tooth. All right. Grab it, pull, and I think there was one more still. Yeah, there's one more right here. I'm gonna grab that tooth. Ah, I don't think I got it. Made a fun noise, but I did not quite get it. Haha, got it that time. Okay, there we go. Now, what I'm going to do, you decide which direction you want your pocket to open. I like them opening this way, but if you like your pocket to open this way, that's fine. You decide. Get your zipper set up that way. And what you're going to do is just put this zipper inside here. Okay, give yourself a little space. You could have actually probably left more tail on either end and then folded them under. There's going to be more top stitching and stuff, so I wasn't really worried. But just attach your zipper. Now you're just going to sew these together. So you're going to put the zipper in here, and you're going to stitch across here, making sure that the fabric doesn't actually go into the teeth. You want to make sure it's a little below the teeth, and you might need to use a zipper foot so that it's not in the way, so your presser foot isn't in the way. You're going to stitch that across here. What I normally would do is I would stitch all that down to here, then I would leave my needle planted in, lift up my presser foot, and then unzip the zipper, and then put the presser foot down and continue sewing, so that I don't get that bump at the end that happens if you try to sew past the zipper pull, okay? So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do the same thing, put the top piece on, and do the same thing, so when it's done, it will look like this, only the zipper will be inside those pieces, okay? So I'm going to stitch those together, put the zipper inside and stitch those together. And honestly, if putting it inside is just way too intimidating for you, this is inside a pocket. No one's gonna see it. You truly can just stick it on top and stitch it across if you want to. No one will see, and the edge of your zipper is finished, so it's not like it's going to fray. So go ahead and do that if getting the zipper inside is intimidating you, okay? Okay, here we go. Look, pocket. Woo! It's a zipper pocket opening, okay? So it's just, it doesn't open itself. This is just the top of the pocket. The bag is going to be the inside of the pocket. All right, so we're going to put this to the side, and we will then attach this when it is time to attach it. Before you place your pockets, you want to make sure you've ironed your bag that has the part that has the strap on it from the back, because remember, we want to try to avoid ironing directly on the ribbon as much as possible, because it can't handle as much heat. Now this is actually a second bag I'm making, and this one has the reverse colors of the first one I'm making, and since I have two pockets, I kind of needed two bags to show you the different pockets. And I'm going to line it up with the bottom of my bag. I'm just using this 3-inch wide ruler so that it is lined up nice and evenly. It's not angled, it's a nice and level bag here, nice and level pocket here. And since that's a 3-inch ruler and there's a 1/2-inch seam allowance, it'll be up 2.5 inches from the bottom. The reason I'm putting this one lower is because the bag is open at the top. There's no zipper, and it's a shallower bag, so it's a shallower pocket. So if my bag isn't all that full and it starts to slouch, everything won't fall out of the pocket. That's why I'm putting this one lower. And you can see that I'm using the folded edge as the top of my pocket, not the seamed edge. I just think it looks nicer. So I've got that lined up all nice and pretty on the bottom, and I'm just going to put pins on both corners here. Okay, put my pins in my corners. And you can see that also the bag also lines up nicely where it's just a tiny bit wider than the straps are. And so that also gives you a nice way to line things up as well. So I'm pinning the tops. And then we're going to do some top stitching. So now here's a little visual aid to help you get the idea of how we're doing our top stitching. What we're going to do is just stitch around this pocket, these 3 sides, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so these 3 sides of the pocket, we're just top stitching in just a tiny bit from the edge. Now, when we get to the top here and the top here, we're going to sew a little triangle. Okay, so I'm going to make this triangle across the top. It's going to come in this way, just like 2 or 3 stitches, and then go down at an angle about 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is 2 or 3 inch stitches. This is about 1/2 inch down, and then go down, around, up, and then make the triangle on this side as well. Make sure to do your back stitches when you start and you stop this, because this is top stitching. There's not going to be anything sewn over it to make it stay. So do your back stitching at the beginning and the end, and make these little triangles, and that'll just make it so that when you're putting your hand in your pocket, you're less likely to tear the pocket out. Okay, so that's how this pocket works. And now let's look at the sewn pocket, at the zipper pocket. Okay, here is my bag front for the bag that I'm putting the zipper pocket on, and here is my zipper pocket. Now again, I need to line this up neatly, and this pocket, I think I might make a little higher up on the bag because it's a bigger pocket, and also it's got this zipper in it. So even if the bag flops around, nothing's gonna fall out of it while it's zipped shut, right? So I think I'm going to just kind of I'm using these little plus signs and lining them up with those stitching lines I did on the straps, and I think that looks like a good height. I said still 3 inches. Look at that. It's still almost 3 inches from the bottom. That's funny. It's almost in the same place. It's just a taller pocket, so you didn't notice. All right. But I like this placement here. So now what I'm going to do is pin this on, and I have to pin all 4 corners. Okay, then sewing this on is actually super easy, because all we're going to do is sew all the way around this rectangle close to the edge of the fabric. We made sure that there was extra fabric at the end of this at the end of the zipper pull, and we're pushing that zipper pull to the back, away towards the zipper and away from the seam, so it'll be out of our way when we sew. And we made sure there was a little bit of extra fabric where there were no teeth. We took out some of the teeth before the end of this zipper so that we can sew across it. So now all we're going to do is just sew all the way around this rectangle close to the edge, but do not go off the edge. And that is all it's going to take to get this pocket attached. Okay, so now here you can see our 2 pockets. This is my little shallow pocket that just has an opening at the top, and those little triangle reinforcements where you have the opening there. Okay, and then on this bag I have my little zipper pocket, and you can see we can unzip and you can slide your items in there, and it's closed at the top and all the way around. So if you just want to bring your grocery bag into the store and you don't want to have to bring in your purse, you can put like your wallet, your cell phone, your coupons, whatever you need in here, and go ahead and zip it shut. And another thing you can do is in here, always keep like an extra mask or 2 and maybe some hand sanitizer, and since it zips shut, even when you're in between shopping trips, you don't have to worry about those falling out. And if you ever go somewhere and forget those things, they're right inside here. So super nice, okay? So it's a great place to store things that you don't want to forget at the grocery store as well. Alrighty, now it's time to continue and to start putting this bag together.